Professional real estate investors are a different breed. We're not afraid to go all in and take educated risks to build stronger businesses and help our families live better lives. This is the Flip Nerd Professional Real Estate Investor Show, and I'm your host, Mike Hambright. Each week, I host a new episode live and bring you America's top real estate investors as guests. Let's start today's show. Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day. Hey, I recently hosted a live event called The Thankful Real Estate Investor right before Thanksgiving and wanted to share the three segments that I recorded with you. So this is going to be segment one with my buddy Trevor Mauch of Investor Carrot. He's also a member of Investor Fuel, our mastermind. So I've gotten to know Trevor really well over the last few years. Last thing I'll say before we jump in is if you were not able to join us live, if you're not already a member of the Flip Nerd private Facebook group, which is totally free, go to flipnerd.com/pro-event, pro event with a hyphen in the middle, flipnerd.com/pro event, and you'll get access to all of our upcoming events. We're going to be doing basically weekly live content and interactive going forward. So we'd love for you to be in that group. Let's go ahead and jump in to our first segment with Trevor Mauch. All right. Hey, everybody. We should be live here. So excited to have this. We kind of call it a summit here, Thankful Real Estate Investor Summit. And I've decided if you know me at all, you know I'm kind of a event junkie. I like to have events. I like to create content. In fact, right before this, I did a Investor Fuel podcast. We've done over 1,500 podcasts in the past 7 years, I guess. And honestly, for me, it's a mechanism to kind of share my knowledge and to share my friends. I have some amazing friends like Trevor here that's going to be joining us today, and John Martinez and Jason Lewis. And so this is a way for us to just kind of share some amazing content with you from some thought leaders in the space and people that I know a lot of others look up to. So if you can, I just want to make sure, it looks like we've got some people that are joining us live. This is my first time using this new tool. So just chat down below, like where you're joining us from this week, and just let us know kind of what city and state you're in to kind of get things started. And then what we want to do is make this interactive so that we can talk about your questions. I mean, Trevor and I have actually been talking for the last 10 minutes about what's going on in our lives and businesses and stuff like that. But that's not what this is about. This is hopefully getting your questions answered and try to help you guys get to the next level. So just make sure that if you could chat down below where you're joining from. And there's a link somewhere there that if you click it, I think it's streamyard.com/Facebook, that'll allow me to see your name and picture. So there's a couple people that are commenting and just as Facebook user can't tell who you are. So anyway, Trevor, how are you, my friend?
Dude, Mike, doing great. And thanks for inviting me back on, man. It's always fun.
Yeah. I love creating content. We've talked before, let's find new ways to create content together. And that's exactly what we're doing is actually, nobody knows this. This is the first time I've actually said this, but we're going to start doing a live event a week. And certainly by the time the new year rolls around, but I'm kind of positioning them as an event like this, like a mini event, a few hours with some great folks joining, and then just one kind of person joining at a time, and they'll be kind of positioned as like a coffee talk or happy hour or lunch and learn. And we create so much content, and I just want to be more interactive. I mean, and there's so many easy tools to do that these days, right?
Dude, one of the things too, I mean, especially where we are right now, like in the middle of COVID and just kind of the wild times we're in, it's so important for us to do this kind of stuff. It's so important for us to engage with each other, to network with each other, to engage. And I think one of the big things too, which I'm pumped about this event you're doing today, is we need more positivity out there. There's so much stuff happening in the world where by you setting this event out there, and it's the Thankful Real Estate Investor Summit, guys. There's so much to be thankful here, and I'm insanely pumped about injecting positivity and real stuff you guys can use.
Yeah, we talked about this right before we went live. And Trevor, we were talking. He's like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing fine. Like my businesses are doing great. We just had Investor Fuel a couple weeks ago, and I kind of polled everybody like, is your business doing the same as last year or better?" And like literally, I think 80% of the room raised their hand. But we just have this fog of kind of weirdness wrapped around us, right? And so you're right. We have so much to be grateful for. I know I have a lot to be grateful for, but I don't think we express it as much these days because it just feels like there's just somebody behind the curtain that's going to kick us in the head or something. I don't know what's going on.
100%.
Yeah. Well, guys, Trevor is, if you don't know Trevor, I mean, he really is, he owns Investor Carrot, the founder of Investor Carrot, and they service thousands of real estate investors and agents with online lead generation. And really just an authority in the space of creating content and marketing and online lead generation. So start to chat in some of your questions here, and we'd love to tackle your questions. That's what this is all about. And maybe while we're waiting for some questions, Trevor, you could tell us something that you think that I guess that you're most grateful for, whether it's in business or personal life.
Dude, there's a couple things, and one thing I love about this, Mike, is I love the challenge that you're tossing out to me and all of us on here, because I think as entrepreneurs, and maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I think as entrepreneurs we set these goals, right? And then we'll oftentimes hit the goal, and we move the goalposts before we ever even get there, and we don't celebrate the thing and be thankful and grateful for what we had a chance to do and where we had a chance to go. So I appreciate the challenge on it. Dude, I think right now, I mean, outside of the obvious, health, amazing family, outside of the obvious there, let's kind of go towards the business side a little bit. Dude, I'm so grateful and thankful for the opportunity to serve people during this time right now, during COVID, during the shift in the real estate market that's likely going to happen sometime soon, in the next year or two, possibly. Because right now is where people are going to be like galvanized to do amazing things over the next 3 to 5 years, or they're going to go back and get the job, or they're going to go back and do what they're going to do. So for me, dude, that's why I wake up in the morning. Like I literally look at how can we help people build businesses of freedom and impact. And I'm grateful that we get the chance to do that in a spot where we are free to do that. And we're not suppressed by the government to do that kind of thing. So man, I'm very grateful to be able to lead a business.
Not yet.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, exactly.
We won't talk about politics too much, because that's going to turn from joy to sadness probably. Yep. But that's awesome. Yeah. And I think that I feel very much the same way. Like, I had a very successful real estate investing business, and you get to a point to where like it went from like, we need to make money to survive. Like, I lost my job and all those things. And I've told the story before. But then it got to a point to where it's like, well, it's not about money anymore. And I hope and pray that a lot of people that are watching here get to that point. That's what this industry has allowed so many of us, right? Some people don't get there. And the question is, how do you get there? And, how can we help you get there? But I think a lot of people get into it for money, like financial freedom, which a lot of times is survival for a lot of people when they're first starting. Like, I need to feed my family, I need to pay the bills. But then it gets to a point to where it's like, it's not, that's not it anymore. And it doesn't mean you don't still want to make money, right? But it just is like, there's some other meaning here. I have to place another meaning on this besides just money, because that gets to a point to where it just gets old, right? Yeah,
dude. Well, I've said this before, and this is something that it took me probably 2 or 3 companies to kind of figure this out, and I feel like I've got it figured out now, but I'll keep on learning on it. Is oftentimes when we start a business, especially in the real estate industry, like investors and agents, oftentimes we're running away from something, right? We're running away from a job we didn't like. We're running away from an income ceiling that was capping us. We're running away from someone saying we couldn't do something. We want to prove them wrong. We're like, I want to go away from this situation over to this new one that looks like it's amazing. And what happens all too often with entrepreneurs, especially in this space, is you get a couple of years in, you start to get that income going where the income that you're trying to replace now is replaced, and oftentimes replaced times a lot more. And then you don't have that thing you're trying to run away from anymore. Like the thing that you were trying to run away from, you are now away from. And we have to, at that point, shift into moving towards something. And that's where a lot of us fall in that trap, is then we look at money, we look at dollars, we look at whatever it is that can be the game or the measurement at that time, because the motivation now is gone to run away from the thing. And now we're like, I'm running towards a number. I'm running towards money. I'm running towards whatever it is. And that's where, at Investor Fuel, there's amazing investors there. And you'll walk into that room, and there's always going to be someone doing more and bigger than you, right? There's always going to be someone there. Like, there's guys who own 150 units. There's guys who are 7-figure, whatever it is. And so that's what I want to encourage people on, is if you're in that time period, if you're in the 2 to 3 year mark, after you started your company, and you feel that kind of emptiness, or you're looking at the next year and you're setting your goals and targets, and your goals and targets are mainly based around a number. Hey, I just want to do more because I was at this mastermind and I think that that's probably what I should do. Pull back and ask, what are you actually running towards other than the number? Is there a mission or purpose or something you're excited about that your business can fuel? And the number is just a goalpost at that point.
Yeah. I think that happens fast in this industry due to the transactional nature of our business. You get to the point where you're like, it could be a grind, right? And you're like, well, what is this for if it's not about money anymore? And it's always about helping people. It's always about helping your family. But I think that it has to take on something bigger than that. So, Trevor, let's get to a couple questions. We had so a couple of questions here. I can't tell who this person is because you have to click the link that gives StreamYard the ability to show your picture and stuff. But what would you recommend for somebody just getting started with online leads?
Dude, so there's a couple things that's really great question. It's funny, I was in a Facebook thread last night, and what someone had posted in the Facebook thread was something to the effect of this. And it was a really good question, honest question. The person said, "I'm doing direct mail. Do I need a website, and how would it actually benefit me?" Right. And so that person hadn't been doing anything on online at all. They've been getting deals done with direct mail, and that's one of the things I oftentimes see with people, Mike, is they find something that works, offline, it's cold calling, direct mail, whatever it is. And then they'll either look at it and say, well, this is working, I don't need to do anything else because this is working. Or they'll look at it and go, I want to stack something on. So I'm going to address both parts of it, Mike. I'm going to address if you're doing offline and you're not doing any online, what should you start doing? And now if you are wanting to start to do online, what are the first things that you can do to get leads quick and start to close some deals? Okay. So the first equation, if you're doing things offline, direct mail, cold calling, RVMs, knocking on doors, whatever it is, and it's working, the one thing that I always like to remind people of is offline marketing drives online demand, right? So if you get a text message or you get a direct mail piece, even if it doesn't have your website on it, what people are going to do is they're going to pick up their cell phones. They're going to Google your company name. They're going to Google the phone number on the direct mail piece or the phone number that you cold called or texted them from, because a lot of us are skeptical these days, and people want to know who the heck just called me, who the heck just text messaged me and is making me an offer. And what happens a lot of times, this is one of the first things I would do for you, with you guys. If you guys are doing offline marketing that's working, this is the first thing you should do online. Is you need to launch a website, whether you're going to actually drive traffic to the website online at all, like whether you're going to do search engine optimization, whether you're going to do Facebook ads or Google ads, it doesn't matter. Okay. If you're doing any offline marketing, you're losing deals right now because you don't have a high converting online presence that works great on mobile and loads fast. And so write down all of your direct mail pieces, what's identifiable about your business on them, a phone number or company name. Go Google those now, like Google the tracking phone number, that call fire number. And what you're going to find is a whole page that says like scam call list or whatever, because it's a tracking number. And so take that phone number, put it on your Carrot site or put it on your website in the about page or the contact page. Even if you have 20 of them, put it at the bottom of your contact page and say, you might have landed on our website from one of these phone numbers. Awesome. It helps us to find, how people discovered us. Go check out how we can serve you and buy your house. So that's the first thing I would do. If you're doing offline marketing, you need to get your credibility profile built up online, because if you lose one deal a year because someone did a Google search and couldn't find any information about you, then you lost 20 grand, you lost 10 grand, you lost $30,000. It's worth it to get that done. So tighten up your credibility profile first.
Awesome.
And so the other side of it now, let's say you're actually wanting to get leads. Now you're not just amplifying your offline, you're wanting to get new leads from online. Dude, the first thing that we do every single time is we kind of have a short-term plan and we have a long-term plan. So your short-term plan is essentially whatever free or paid you can afford right now. So if you don't really have a budget and you're like, I just need to hustle, and I don't have a budget to pay for Google ads as an example, guys, Craigslist still works. A lot of people ignore Craigslist. And so there's a couple things we're still doing to pull deals out Craigslist consistently. Number one, having a website is going to help you build credibility with it. So you got to have the website up there with your testimonials and about page and all that. It's got to convert great. But go into the for sale by owner section in Craigslist and start to search any words that are like motivated words, right? It's your fire damage. It's your motive. Put in the word motivated. It's your fixer upper. Like go to your area, for sale by owner, or the real estate for sale section, type in those words in the search box. And depending on your area, you're probably going to find somewhere between 5 and 50 properties every day that have those words in them. Just write up an email, send that to them, save that email as a saved template in your Gmail account, so you don't have to retype it all the time. and then just send out those 5 or 10 a day saying, hey, are you the owner of this property? Because you don't want to be talking with an agent. Are you the owner? If they're an owner, make them an offer. And so you might send out 10, 20, 30, 40 offers a month through Craigslist and pick up a deal a month or something like that. Okay? Yep. So if I've got money in budget, I would start Google pay-per-click all day long in almost every market. Miami is a really hard market to make pay-per-click work unless your average profit per deal is over $20,000. But Google pay-per-click is our go-to every time. People just get scared of the dollars because they're thinking emotionally with their budget, not math. And I can dive into how to set your marketing budget if people want to.
Yeah. Trevor, we got another question here. By the way, for those of you that are listening right now, I'll type in your questions for Trevor. He's going to be with us for another 10 minutes or so. We'd love to kind of tackle your questions. So, Trevor, we got a question here from my buddy Frank Hopkins, who is an agent and an investor. And sometimes we generate leads as an investor and they turn into listings. Sometimes we're marketing for both. So I think that this kind of question is, it depends, like, did you generate it through investing side or were you marketing as an investor? But Frank asked if I've done a ton of listings this year and flips, do I need to keep that information separate on my websites, or can I combine that info?
Dude, Frank, such a good question, man. So I've got an article and a video I'm literally recording and writing today on hybrid. We have our Carrot hybrid website template coming out next month. And here's our strategy in hybrid, Frank. Okay. So if you're an investor and an agent, y'all, number one, I think everybody should be an investor and an agent, or you should at least be collaborating heavily with the other side. So if you don't have a license, if you're an investor and you don't have your real estate license, awesome. Get in and collaborate heavily with agents so you can refer things out. But if you have the license, you can share in that commission, which makes your marketing more effective, and you can makes your marketing have a higher ROI. So the first thing is, guys, hybrid is this motivated seller strategy. Okay, hybrid is not a buyer strategy here at Carrot. And here's what I mean by that. If you're an investor and an agent, the best way to leverage hybrid is a motivated seller website on the Carrot system, driving your SEO, your PPC, your Facebook ads, whatever it is, to a motivated house seller website. Now on that site, Frank, and this is what our hybrid sites in December when we roll them out are doing, is the message needs to be a little bit different than the standard motivated seller site. It needs to be a little bit different than the sell your house fast. Like, that needs to be on it. But you need to remove all the stuff. So, where it says, I'm not an agent, you need to add in there saying, hey, we can put the most money in your pocket. Because now if you're an investor and an agent, you're not just saying our main benefit is cash quick, right? It's, yeah, we can do cash quick, but we have other options where we can actually put the most money in your pocket and get you a retail or even above retail potentially, depending on your strategies. So adjust the copy on that website to say things like that. And I can show you an example of one that's crushing it, that does 10 to 15 deals a month, where on average, somewhere between 4 and 5 of those are wholesales and flips. On average, about 6 or 7 of those are listings. And then the rest of them are what they call fix and lists. So I can show an example of that here in a bit. As far as separate sites though, Frank, so what I suggest here at Carrot is, if you have a real estate brokerage, or if you are an agent and you market yourself as an agent to the public, i.e. people know Frank Hopkins in the area as an agent as well, and you are looking for retail buyers also on the market, and you're okay with getting a retail seller off the market, then you should have a real estate agent website that builds up that brand, okay? Because that's where you're going to get your retail buyers. But over on the motivated seller side, there should be a separate site that's just for motivated sellers. And I'll finish it with this. Is the reason you have to have separate sites there, if you do have a brand on the brokerage side of it, is because you're not going to get retail buyers through your investor site. Okay, you're going to get motivated house sellers. Those motivated house sellers then go, okay, I'm going to take 20% of these and they're going to be home purchases. The 80% are probably going to want retail. They go over to the retail side, right? But very rarely is a wholesale seller, so a motivated house seller is going to sell you at a discount. Very rarely is a wholesale seller also a wholesale buyer. Okay, very rarely are they going out and buying investment properties. But on the retail side, a seller is a buyer and a buyer is a seller, right? If I'm buying a home, I'm probably selling a home also. And if I'm selling a home, I'm probably buying a home. And so definitely have 2 different sites. Last thing here, if you're a hybrid agent investor and you just have your license to help you share in commissions as an investor, but you don't market yourself as an agent to the world. You just need the one website, the Motivated House Seller website, and then whatever other websites you're looking for other types of leads, like rent to own, stuff like that. But you don't need an agent website with IDX at that point.
Yep, that's good stuff. I have not shared this broadly. I don't know if I'm not going to shout it from the rooftops or anything. After all these years, Trevor, I actually just got my license. And the truth is I don't plan to ever list a property, but I just want it from a referral standpoint, right? I know there's a bunch of stuff that I do that would just be easier if I'm licensed. So I've just checked the box to be able to do that. Yeah. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you're doing that, because I've been preaching that for the last couple of years, and I was getting a lot of investors saying, I don't want to get my license, or a lot gave up their license before, right? Yeah. But the industry is getting squashed together, and here's one of the main reasons why, especially going into this next cycle, why it's important that you find a way to do more with your leads. Is, let's say you get 10 leads, and as a real estate investor, through organic search or even PPC, you might convert 1 out of 10 of those into a house purchase, right? That's about average with Carrot clients for a search engine an SEO lead is about 1 in 10 to 1 in 15 of those turn into a deal. Now here's the deal. If 1 of those 10 turns into a deal, all the other ones want retail, or they didn't want to work with you and they're going to sell to another investor, right?
Right.
So let's say 8 out of the 10 want retail. And let's say the average listing commission on those would have been $6,000, and you end up landing 3 of those. Now you turned 4 out of those 10 leads into a deal in some way. 1's a flip or a wholesale, and the other 3 are listings. And you just got an extra $18,000 because an average of $6,000 commission. You can spend more money on marketing than your competition can. And so while everyone is over here complaining about ad costs or complaining about Google costs or whatever it is, because they are only closing 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 15 of those leads into a deal, you're closing 4. You can outspend them and have more profit than all day long.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Our I don't know if who is attributed to saying this originally, but he who can spend the most on marketing and still be profitable is the one that wins, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Hey, while we're answering some questions here, if you guys can just chat your questions down below. I want to make sure we cover as much as we can. We only have a few more minutes here with Trevor before Jason Lewis, our next guest, comes on. So type your questions down below, and also just maybe share what you're thankful for. I think we all have a lot to be thankful for, no matter how weird your life might be right now, or how we're feeling about all the stuff that's going on politically or about COVID or any of those things. We don't want to spend much time talking about those things, but they're kind of real, but we still have so much to be thankful for. So maybe kind of share down below what your questions are for Trevor, and maybe or what you are thankful for right now. We got another question here, Trevor, from unknown user, Facebook user. Do you have separate lead capture pages or separate websites for different markets? So I think more investors than ever are operating in multiple markets or investing virtually. Can you kind of share your thoughts on how you handle that?
Yep, dude. So let me share this really quick here, because I think it'll be a good example. Can you guys see my screen?
Hold on here. I
kind of sprung one on you, Mike.
I know. I'm trying. Oh, hold on here.
You're good, dude. There we go. Cool. So the short answer is this. Okay, if you're the only time you want a separate website is if you're going after completely separate lead avatars, right? So if you're going after sellers, if you're going after motivated sellers, it doesn't matter if you're in different markets. That should all be under one website. Like if you think about Zillow, right? Does Zillow have a different website for every single city? No, they build everything on Zillow.com, and then they create pages for those cities. And so here's an example. Cody Sperber, he's a client of ours, big investor. And so they moved over from their custom website not too long ago, and they're in a bunch of different markets. And so what you do is you create what we call location specific pages for each one of these. So they invest in all these places, Casa Grande, Glendale, all these different places. And then you can see there's a page on that website for every single one of those cities. And that page then says, hey, Glenn, it talks about Glendale, has a Glendale pictures. The content on that page is a little bit different than the content in the other pages. And so that strategy right there is exactly how you dominate on Google. You definitely don't have multiple websites for multiple cities. Now, the only one caveat to that is this, is I do have clients who do have multiple websites in different cities. If they have completely different brands in those cities and they don't want to be seen as a national or regional buyer, but only a hyper local buyer.
Yep.
The drawback to that though is now you've got to run, if you're doing search engine optimization, you've got to do SEO on multiple sites now, which is like, it's harder. You've got to update multiple sites. That's harder.
Yeah.
So one site.
Yeah. So it depends. So like for this brand here, Cash for Homes Arizona, if they started investing in Ohio, they're going to have a problem. They might need a different site or to kind of rebrand completely, right?
Exactly. And that's where it's really important for us, whenever we're launching our websites, is to think about, where could I grow this business? Like, am I always just going to be in Arizona and that's my market? Or do I think I could be a regional player? Or if you're in Texas, am I always only going to be in Dallas, the Dallas area? Or if you're not, if you plan on growing, then don't pick a URL or a brand that's just about Dallas. If you plan on buying all around Texas, make it maybe about Texas, or make it more location agnostic. But like I said, where you do need multiple sites though, is if you're going after cash buyers, or if you're going after rent to own tenants, like this one here, or land, right? So here's a land site.
Oh, hold on.
They're getting a bunch of land leads. You need a different website for those, ideally. That way you're going after those different types of leads.
Awesome.
Yep. Cool.
We've got another question here. Sorry, I've got a couple of them. What's the downside of getting your real estate license as an investor? I've honestly have said before that I've literally been known to say I will never get my real estate license.
I'd heard that before too, man.
Yeah, you probably heard me say it. I was like, no, there's no chance. And I will tell you this: I should probably be careful using words like never or always, But I don't plan to ever list a house. I just got it for the purpose of referrals, and I think there's a lot of pressure on. I think there'll be more and more pressure on investors to be licensed in the future. I think we're kind of heading down that path. So maybe Trevor could share his thoughts, but I think, when you're licensed, it potentially opens you up to some issues of whose best interest you're looking out for. Right. And so I think you have to be careful to kind of follow those rules as much as possible. But any thoughts, Trevor, on kind of pros and cons of, there are some pros and cons. You just have to decide what fits for you.
Yeah, I was talking to one of our clients, Jeff Fassett, about this. He's an investor agent out of Phoenix as well. Buys a ton of land through Carrot, about 15 properties a month that he's buying through Carrot and direct mail. And what he said was this: he said, "Man, you know what? Yeah, there are some things you've got to do. You've got to do tests, and you've got to do continuing education, and you have a certain standard of morals and ethics that the real estate board upholds you to." And he said, actually, I think it's a good thing, because a lot of investors don't go through that training. A lot of investors don't operate by a standard of morals and ethics outside of their own personal one. And so I think that is a potential downside, is you do have to go through some hoops and do some things that you wouldn't have to do if you didn't have your license. But I think at the end of the day, it's a benefit to the end client, and it's a benefit to you. Another downside, potentially, that people could see, is you have to disclose it, right? So on your website, you can't say we're not an investor. You can't say we're not an agent. You actually have to tell them in most states that I am an agent somewhere on the website. And so that could be seen as a downside, but I would use it as an advantage. It's not a downside at all. Use it as an advantage, y'all. That, hey, we can actually serve you in multiple ways, not just in this one way that all the other investors are trying to serve people. Yeah.
And I think different brokers are different in terms of their concern with, I think you should always disclose it. But like for years, my wife, Lindsay, was licensed a long time because she used to list our properties, and then we handed that off to somebody else. But we used to just put in our contract that an owner of the buyer, was what we'd say, is a licensed agent, and they don't represent you in any way. And we just kind of we would reference it. She had never went on a buy appointment once, would never ever talk to that seller, but just we were 50-50 owners in our company. So we just disclosed. But some brokers might be a little more stringent on how you say those things. So I think you have to, sometimes that you might choose your broker based on how strict they are on those rules even, right? So awesome.
100%.
Awesome. Cool. We got, I think we got time for maybe one more question here. So let me show this one here. If you have hybrid brands, so some people are, real estate investors, as you know, Trevor, we all do a bunch of stuff. Like I'm a perfect example of that. I do all kinds of different things now. But if you're an agent, you might be a lender. I mean, talk about how it's on some level, you probably just need to have different brands or different sites, right? But maybe kind of share your thoughts on that.
Dude, so my rule of thumb is this, is you're always going to get better performance if your website hyper focuses on one specific avatar, right? Because 100% of the time then who is going to be landing on that site. You know how to speak to them. The testimonials that you add on that site should then speak to what that person wants to see. And so in this example, if you're an investor and a lender, think about that and go, okay, well, if I have a motivated house seller website and I'm looking for house sellers, would they care about seeing something that says that you also lend money? Or your lenders, if they go over to that motivated house seller website, how would they know that you're a person that they'd want to work with to actually lend money or borrow money from you? What would the testimonials say? Would you have a mix of testimonials that's from lenders or from people borrowing you money and from the sellers? If so, that mixes up the message and makes it harder for the seller to convert. So in that case, they're completely different prospects. I would separate the websites, have one specific to lending, kind of like this one here, a Legacy Capital, Legacy Capital PA, I think that's it. So this is one where the person set up a lending website on our Carrot system. There's other lending sites that people have set up that look a lot more modern. This guy set up years ago, but he gets tons of leads through this. And then he also has one that's for motivated sellers. So think about, is it the same prospect? I'll give you a good example, then I'll wrap it with this. Is you could have the same website be for cash buyers and for lenders. Okay, people looking to lend you money. Okay, because oftentimes the cash buyer is the same person. It's someone who has cash, who's interested in real estate and wants to get an ROI. And so there you can get private lenders through a cash buyer website, and you wouldn't have to have separate ones there.
Yeah, you don't want to confuse the person you're trying to help. I mean, at the end of the day, you're a problem solver, whether you're an agent or whether you're an investor that buys houses for cash. I mean, if you start to confuse people with like, well, lending, like I just want to sell my house, like people are like, they're going to move on to the next site because it doesn't sound like you're real clear on what you do, or you're going to confuse them. So
dude, there's one last thing here. I know we're at time, but there's a question here about credibility. I had this site pulled up, and I'll just give you guys a few ideas on ways to build conversion on your website. So someone said, how do I make my website convert better? And this is just one that I had up, but I'm just going to show you some elements. So this is a Carrot site. A lot of people think all Carrot sites look the same, but if you go and customize them, they can look amazing as well as converting high and ranking well. And so there's a few things. Number one, how can you up towards the top of your website put credibility elements? Like this here, they've got their BBB, they've got their 5-star Google rating badge. When I land here, I immediately see the credibility right out of the gates. Number two, get localized photos on your website that are not just the stock photos. Number three, where else can you add credibility type of elements? So they've done a good job of getting articles on these news sites, so then they can list them out. There's some other things that you can do is make sure that people are very clear in your process, lay it out well. This is probably the biggest one here, y'all, is leverage the testimonial blocks on the Carrot system or whatever you're using to put in good video and written testimonials. When I'm scrolling through this, I see him, Zach, with that client. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to click that, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to click it and see if that person is going through a situation similar to mine. And if Zach helped them, he can probably help me. This is an important one. Tell people who you are. Way too many investors hide behind the website. Agents are good putting themselves out front, but way too many investors hide behind it. Guys, people want to work with people. And the way that you guys build trust and credibility there is let them know who you are, why you do what you do, show them what you do, be transparent about your process, put testimonials up on your website. Okay, this site here crushes it because they put the time to let people know about them, about their process, and they added testimonials onto their Carrot site.
Awesome.
Yep. Good
stuff. Well, Trevor, hey, thanks for sharing some time with us today, buddy.
Dude, I appreciate it, Mike. Guys and gals, have an amazing Thanksgiving. Man, you guys are having an amazing time in the rest of the session, and thanks for the time, Mike.
Always good to see you. Everybody, give Trevor a little love here, and we're going to move on to our next guest here in just a moment. So thanks, Trevor. Have a great Thanksgiving, buddy.
Hey, you too. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
We'll see you. Everybody, so we're about a third of the way through our event here. Just had Trevor Mauch sharing some great stuff. We really want to answer your questions. So make sure if you know who our guests are, you hear the topics that we're talking about, that you're chatting your questions down below here, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we possibly can, especially if it looks like it's the type of question that a lot of people probably need an answer to. So a couple little notes, if you will. So if you're not watching this right now in our Flip Nerd group, I actually ended up sharing it the last minute on my personal profile too. So you might be seeing it another way. This is the first event that we're doing like this. And this is actually the last event that we'll be doing like this. So you have to be in our private Flip Nerd group, which is totally free, by the way. But the way you get there is you go to flipnerd.com/pro-event. You can see the link going across the screen here. So make sure you hit that page if you're not a member of the Flip Nerd group yet. And we're going to start doing live content on almost a weekly basis. I know you're not going to be able to make them all, but you'll be able to see the recordings there as well. And our Flip Nerd group has just a ton of amazing people and content sharing Q&A type stuff in there as well. So make sure you hit that link down at the bottom. Thanks for joining me on today's episode. There are 3 ways I help successful real estate investors take their businesses and their lives to the next level. First, if you're in search of a community of successful real estate investors that help one another take their businesses to the next level, and a life-changing community of lifelong friends, please learn more about my Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind by visiting investorfuel.com. If you'd like a cutting-edge solution for the very best done-for-you lead generation on the planet, where we're handling the lead generation for many of America's top real estate investors, please learn more at theinvestormachine.com. And lastly, if you're interested in a free online community of professional real estate investors that isn't full of spam, solicitations, and newbie questions, please join my free Professional Real Estate Investor Facebook group by visiting flipnerd.com/professional.